Hello and welcome to Colleagues Here Sprint Review for 19.10.02. This will cover the work undertaken between the 15th of October to the 28th of October. Our sprint goal for this sprint has been to deliver the ability to manage bespoke user-specific lists in replacement of favourites. Looking at the high-level items and to explain further, in this sprint we've been able to introduce the ability to create user lists. This is in replacement of favorites. Users have been given the ability to create different lists from within their user settings area and then allocate records to their chosen lists using an add to list feature instead of add to favorites. I'll give a demo on this shortly. We've resolved an issue with the ordering of search results adjusting when you assign a flag. We've added a new formatted start date to the requirement. This will copy over to the offer form if one exists. We've started work on a new global setting which will dictate whether you copy the GDPR status of a record to its associated candidate or contact if they are linked. This will carry over into the next sprint. We've introduced the option to bypass offers. I'll give a demo on this shortly. On the diary, we've added the ability to mouse over diary entries for a summary. A new back office settings page has been introduced to admin, and we've added the ability to search on records with no skills. We'll now go for a brief demonstration on the key features from this sprint.
Okay, so the first item to go through is lists. Lists are essentially a replacement to previous functionality called favorites, which was just a single list of favorite records that you wanted to highlight as records that you consistently want to go back to. You could run workflow from a candidate record or from a search result or for any entity record that for that matter, selecting to add to favorites. What you can now do is basically create multiple lists that are specific to you as a user. So you'll have your favorites list as a default list, unless you assign a different default. We'll get to that in a second. But then you'll also have the option to specify different lists within this area as well. If we go to list maintenance, you'll be able to see that there's now a section within your user settings called list maintenance. And within here, what you can do is look to create another list. So if I create DP test 2 as an example and hit save there, that's as simply as much as there's to it in terms of adding a list there and then deleting a list. Obviously, you can just select the list and hit delete. And that's obviously going to free up any records that were associated to the list also. For within a entity record of the view more, you've got the add to list option here, and essentially from here you can select the different lists that you have available. Again, on the basis of the default choice, so this default option here is going to dictate which default list appears when you go to add to list here, which list appears. If there's no assigned default, it will choose favorites as standard. But what you can also do is add a list on the fly as well. So if you're looking to create a new list from within a record, you can hit select and add new list, and here we can, DP test new list 2. So here we'll press OK, and that just adds a new list and assigns this record to that list. So if we go back to lists, you'll see that we have our favorites list, but we also have this new list that I've created there, and the record obviously assigned. So that's the start of what will be a new area within the system, where additional functionality will be added over time. We do have the plans to implement the means to be able to share a list, so that when you created a list as an option here, you'd also have an option of whether or not you want to share that list, and that will make that list appear for other users in the system. That functionality will be coming relatively shortly, but over time we'll also build out other functionality within this area as well in respect to lists, so that it's fully administratable as expected. But that's the update we've made there. The next point to cover is just on the start date addition to the requirement. So previously the start date against a requirement record has always been a free text note field. Reason being is that a start date can often be a timescale as opposed to a specific date. But in instances of contracts where the date is established as the start date in which the contract is going to come into play, it's appropriate for there being a start date, but we've also allowed for start date notes, which is essentially that same field. All of the previous start dates will just now feed into start date notes and be displayed there. If you have a specific start date, you can now specify that start date there. What we've also done is ensure that that start date carries over into the offer creation form, and as well as that, also perform some auto calculation on the end date as well. So as following the update that was made in the previous sprint in relation to copying over the rates of the candidate that are stored here into the offer form, what you should be able to do now is on hidden offer, providing those rates are entered, you've got the start date. If your duration is entered, then it's going to calculate your end date. You've got your charge rate coming through, your pay rate coming through. So the form is being auto-filled on the basis of that data being obviously pre-entered into the system. So hopefully what you'll see is that we're trying to implement as many click savers and time-saving options as we can there. So that's the start date that's been added to the requirements screen. What I would say is obviously we've updated the merge codes as associated with this. If you've got any specific merge codes, it's worth obviously going through that process of checking those merge codes against those templates. But we've obviously implemented start date notes, and updated the offer form to calculate on the basis of an entered start date. And that's the update we made there. The next point to cover is the ability to bypass offers. This was functionality previously in version 6 and has now been configured into 7. So from within the admin area under global settings and under the section of offer, you now have the option to enable offers, which by default will be set to yes as that's current workflow. You also have the option to hide the offers selection screen from the main menu, so to hide the ability to actually search for offers from the selection screen. If on the event that the enable offers was set to no, you could still have the ability to search for offers if there are existing offers perhaps in play. But if you wanted to hide those offers and set that to yes, what you're going to have is a situation essentially like this, where from the main menu side, the offers as an option has gone. And on the requirements, on the candidates tab, what you'll notice is that the offered column has been replaced with placed as the change in terms of workflow. And when running this workflow now, it still runs this form, but obviously it advises placement details rather than offer details. And on selecting save there, essentially you're creating a placement record. It's bypassing offers, and it's gone straight to creating a placement record there. So that's the key update that we made as part of this release. Next point to cover, and it's just a minor one on the diary, and that's whenever you mouse over a diary entry now, you're going to get this summary view or summary hover that appears on mouse over of a diary entry. So that's just to give you a bit of information about the diary entry, essentially on mouse over of the entry itself. So it's just a minor update we made there. The last point to cover, and it's in relation to the search specifically against skill criteria, and that is that there's now an option to actually find records with no skills. So obviously you've got the means to be able to perform a skill criteria based search, but if ultimately you're just looking for records that have no skills, when ticked, this will disable these options, disable this area here, and clear any skill criteria that you may have entered, and it's just going to look for records that have no skills. It can obviously work in conjunction with other criteria there, but ultimately it's finding records that have no skills, obviously to be used in instances of data cleansing and data tidy up to address those records. But yeah, there's an extra option there. As always, if you have any queries or feedback, please get in touch. I'll be keen to hear from you. Also, for those using Colleague 7, feel free to submit your enhancement requests via the support team or directly to me using the above email address. The next video will be the sprint plan for 19.11.01, and as always, that will contain a high-level overview on the items we intend to work on during that sprint. Thanks for watching.